Outstanding. All right. I will call this regular scheduled meeting to order, and if you will join in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Introduction of commissioners and staff, starting with
Thank you, Madam Chair. Vito Chiesa, Stanislaus County member.
Bill Berryhill, public member.
Terry Withrow, county member.
Amy Bublak, city member.
Richard O'Brien, city member.
Brad Hahn, alternate public member.
Javier Camarena, Assistant Executive Officer.
Sarah Lytle-Penny, Executive Officer.
Rob Terrell, LAFCO Counsel.
Jennifer Vieira, Commissioning Clerk.
All right. Thank you. You okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right. At this time, we have the public comment. This is a period in which the persons may comment on items that are not listed on the regular agenda, and no action will be taken by the commission as a result of the item presented during the public comment. We have some cards, but they're for an item later on. Are there any persons that wish to speak now in public comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move to approval of minutes. Is there a motion to accept the minutes on March 24th?
Make a motion to accept.
Second, third.
We have a motion,
Fourth.
2 seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against, say nay. It passes unanimously. Correspondence.
So before you tonight, you have a piece of specific correspondence for the Northwest Newman Phase 1 reorganization. That's item 8A. You should have one with the title on the outside from neighbors in the North Manor neighborhood. And then you should have a second letter that we just received tonight from Sherry Marsigli, Steve Bassett, and Lori Blanco. And that's all.
Great. And for declarations of conflicts and or disqualifications, are there any? Hearing
I have a declaration of conflict, yes.
Okay.
Concerned to FPPC regulation, is that what you asked?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm recusing myself as a selection of public member and the alternative. I'm recusing myself as one of the applicants, Bill O'Brien, is employed and is a minor owner in O'Brien's Market, which is a source of my income, and due to my employment and his at that business. I will leave the dais when that comes up.
Madam Chair, as a public member, and given the fact that that's up tonight, I will, as soon as that issue is brought up, I will leave my position and go from there.
Thank you. All right. If there are no other disqualifications or conflicts, we'll move on to consent item. There are none. Other business, selection of public member and or alternate public member to the commission.
Thank you.
We'll give a moment here for folks to take their respective seats.
All right. Everybody is leaving. Are you staying? No? Thank goodness. Leave me all alone.
Jeez.
Okay.
So just a note, Brad left the dais because he's ineligible to vote, but you're fine.
Okay. So we have several candidates to choose from. So what I was expecting, if there's any agreement or disagreement, we just have them come up and say a couple words about why they want to, and then we can ask some questions should we feel the need. So
Sounds good.
let's go ahead and start with, let's go backwards here. Alphabetical, I'm sorry. Since Mr. Berryhill just left us. Any help, any help?
If you're going backwards alphabetically, it would be Dennis Wilson.
There we have it, Wilson, Mr. Wilson. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Chair Bublak, Commissioners, Dennis Wilson, lifetime member of this community, 50 years experience in the land planning and engineering business. Saw the application form go out and I said, you know, I think I'd like to do that. I spent a lot of time on this side of the podium and I'd like to see what it looks like from up there. So I think there's a lot of things to be done in this county, and I've done a lot of annexations myself, and most of them have been successful. I trust that you read all the background information that I provided, so I won't get into that. I am interested in being on this board and sharing my views and experience, and I'm open for any questions.
All right. Thank you. Any questions from Mr. Wilson?
I'd like to ask one, if that's okay. Do you still have clients? Would you have any conflicts with clients you're currently working with?
I still have some clients. I'm not working full-time. I have some clients that would not have any conflict with LAFCO. I haven't had an annexation before LAFCO for probably 30 years, and I don't think there'd be any conflicts.
Thank you.
Supervisor Kaza.
Okay. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're going backwards here. It's not done in order here. Let's just go with Mr. Lane. I'm messing up around here. Ken Lane, welcome back.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Yes, it is a back. I think this is the first time I'm back down here for, gosh, I think you took my spot, in fact. It's been that long ago, so
Wow.
been a while. But obviously you've read my application. You know, I was asked to put my application in, and I thought about it, you know, being on this side, right? I've been on that side a long time, but being on the public side and listening to the public, you know, it might be a good position to be in, to come back and serve the public on that side as to where I'm not serving the cities or the county. So that's really just what tweaked the interest more than anything. But, you know, I enjoyed it, my time here. Obviously, I have a great amount of experience from the city of Ceres, over 20 years, and different boards that we served on doing that. So my experience is in depth. I think the last thing we did in Ceres was our general plan update, which all of you that have been a part of that know what that is. It's a big undertaking, and so, and obviously LAFCO is a part of that, and going through that process, so to make sure that we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So anyway, so that's really, you know, what tweaked my interest. So again, it's good seeing all of you again. It's good to be back down here. Any questions? I certainly am here to answer.
Question?
So can I ask the same question, because I'm not sure if you're retired or what you're doing now, Mr. Lane, but do you have any conflicts or potential conflicts, not specifically talking about an individual, but are you working for any cities or doing any business that would come before LAFCO?
No business. I'm not retired. I'd like to be soon, but retired off the politics side of it, but not retired. But no conflicts that would create any problems in serving here.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now that I've messed up my alphabet, Mr. O'Brien.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Bill O'Brien. Live in the city of Modesto. My experience have been pretty vast, 18 years in government, 6 in the city of Riverbank, 12 on the Board of Supervisors of Stanislaus County. What interests me on wanting to come back to LAFCO, I spent 10 years on the LAFCO Commission. It's just I've been born and raised in this county, and I will die in this county, and I just want to do everything I can to make it the best county in America. And that is why I'm interested in doing it. I have no sense to amend for my time. I wouldn't be coming back to LAFCO to try to undo or change anything that's happened in the past. No hidden agendas. But I think there's one issue that needs to be brought up so it's completely transparent. Obviously, Mayor O'Brien is a relative, He does work for me in my business, which yesterday we decided to start asking if that would be a disqualification, and it very well may be. We put that in front of your council. If it's not disqualifying, you need to determine if it should be or if it's politically disqualifying. If it's not, you know, the ones who know me know that I will give 110%. Sometimes even if you don't want me to give 110%, I do. But I just need that to be out in the open and part of your decision-making process. That if it's not an issue, then at least we address it tonight. But if it is a disqualifying issue, I will not hold it against any one of you. So just want to bring that up.
Questions for Mr. O'Brien?
You want to address the question, do you have any business that would come before LAFCO that would be?
Don't think grocery stores would ever come in front of you. But yeah, I mean, the only disqualifying event that could be is if there was an annexation within 500 feet of any one of my stores, and we're all in the city limits, so I don't think that would be possible.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kellner?
Good evening, Commissioners. I was born in Ventura County, but along with a number of other farming family members, we moved to the west side in the 60s, Friedrichs, Marings, and such, because land prices were better and the sons of the farmers wanted to stake out on their own. So I've lived in Stanislaus County for 55 years of my life, except for going to school at Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, where I did get a agricultural business degree, but I'm more risk averse, so instead I've had 2 jobs, one 15 years, another about 18, 19, with 2 businesses here in small businesses in Stanislaus County. I want to give back to the county, and I don't have LAFCO experience or governmental experience, but I think that it might be good to have a fresh face who can listen to all the aspects and give a different perspective. And yes, we do have some land in Gustine area and Wesley. That's West End Irrigation District provides it, so I do have a conflict or 2 at that point. Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Conflict is in because you belong to an irrigation district?
Yeah, yes, basically. I mean, I don't know if that's conflict or not, but...
No, but you wouldn't have personally any business, you don't own land next to a city where you might be coming into the city or something? Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
And Mr. Berryhill?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, I wanted to go for now I'm not up for a commissioner position, so I'm just an alternate. I've enjoyed tremendously my time on this commission. I've learned a lot. I've learned to appreciate the staff that we have here in Stanislaus County. They really do an amazing job. They cross their T's, dot their I's, and make sure nobody gets shortcuts. And then the commission backs them. And so I really would like to I had a very short tenure here. Got a taste of the chairmanship that I'll probably never taste it again. But it's been great, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoy, obviously, agriculture, but also understanding water issues in this state and the impact it has on agriculture, and the decisions we make as a commission are all tied together. And so I've appreciated, again, serving and the relationships with everybody on the commission, and we just love a chance in 4 more years. Well, 4 years went so fast. That's probably because it was just 2. But I would love to do 4 years and serve. So that's it. Any questions?
Questions for Mr. Berryhill?
No questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, so bring it back to my colleagues, what is the will of?
So we're gonna vote right here, I guess, huh?
Why not?
Okay.
So are we going to take them together? We're going to take them separately? I didn't even,
You can do it either way. It might be easier for us, though, to just take them separately. We have
Okay.
separate resolutions.
so I think because at least, and maybe I'll just talk out loud, we can all talk out loud, and then maybe we'll come to something. I think Mr. Berryhill, since he's going to be the alternate, I'm okay with reappointing him in the alternate position. I think that's fair to give him more time. Because Mr. Hahn can't be reappointed and the public member is going to be voting right away, it's probably a little more important to have some experience. And I, you know, that cuts both ways, but I always thought there's a path in on the alternate to sit and get to understand what's going on here. And this is just Vito's view of the world, just for what it's worth. Bill O'Brien, I served with you. I just think that it's close enough to a conflict potentially that that's just my thought. Ken has served in the past. Dennis has a lot of experiences. So, and I think if it was the alternate position, Eric, I would consider you. I think, but because you sit up here and all of a sudden have to start voting, I think it's down to the other two, at least in my mind. And I probably are going to give the nod myself personally to Ken because he's been sitting up here, he's been the chair in the past. But we have some really qualified, I mean, Bill and Ken and Dennis, you've got people that are able to serve right away. But those are my thoughts.
Why don't you go ahead if you want.
Sure, I'll jump in there next. I have served with Commissioner O'Brien, and he was very helpful, taught me a lot. But I always worry about the air of people thinking there might be a little conflict, and even the fact that you uttered it kind of makes me think you might think it is as well. So love to have you sitting up here with us, but I don't think it's appropriate at this point. I do believe that Mr. Berryhill has done an exceptional job in a quick amount of time. He has the background with it, and I absolutely choose him as an alternate. And I have worked with Mr. Lane, and I know that there's other people here who could learn just as quickly, but I would probably lean first to Mr. Lane.
Okay. So I think I'm going to share kind of everybody else's view here. Very much Bill O'Brien, enjoyed working with him, but just the conflict thing is probably going to get to us here. And so I don't think that would work. And Eric, I very much appreciate your interest in this and encourage you to continue to be interested, not just in this, but in other aspects of government here. We'd love to have you involved. And I think you're actually, Eric, you're related to my wife. I think at some point somehow you guys are related. Second cousins, there we go. So it's Germans. And so, yeah, but I've known
Like
Eric.
old Brian, huh?
Been over to your house when you were a little kid, I think, Eric. Yeah. But I appreciate you doing this here. And Dennis, I love you to death, too. And I guess I'm just going to kind of lean towards Ken here. And Dennis, I love you on that side, actually, and working with you. And I think you do such good work out there for the public from that side. I know you're getting paid for that one. But I would, yeah, I think I would lean towards Ken with his past experience on here also. So, yeah, so that's kind of where I stand.
Obviously, I've never served with anybody here, so I'm going to be pretty simple when it comes down to it. I believe personally that Ken, with his experience and what I read, will be the perfect candidate, and then Mr. Hill as an alternate. Like I said, I've never met everybody, and I do appreciate everybody coming today and putting everything they set forward, because it isn't easy to come forward in front of everybody to speak and lay it out up front. So those are my choices.
All right, so are there motions to be made?
So we'll take the vote separately. Is that what
Please.
you had asked for?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, for the alternate member, I would make a motion, Bill O'Brien, Commissioner O'Brien be selected.
I'm sorry?
Not O'Brien.
What did I say?
Would you like Berryhill?
Said O'Brien.
I appreciate you. Bill, I tell Bill, when he left the Board of Supervisors, he sat here and I sat there, and it was never the same because one of the smartest people I've ever met. I'm sorry I made that mistake, but Bill.
Too many bills.
Berryhill. I'm sorry.
Okay, so there's a motion for the alternate for Bill Berryhill. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And against say nay. All right, that is a 4-0. Mr. Berryhill, you're back. Now for the other position, the regular position.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion for Ken Lane to be the public member.
Okay, we have a motion for Ken. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And against say nay. All right, passes 4-0. Thank you all for coming
Appreciate
here and participating, and keep looking because there's places we need you. Okay, we need to get somebody back in the room. Where's Richard?
I'll get it.
That one's good.
Didn't matter that we served on the LAFCO before.
You guys are crazy. Okay, you ready? So we have now opening the public hearings. Item A, LAFCO application number 2021-01, Northwest Newman Phase 1, reorganization to the City of Newman.
Good evening, Commissioners. Javier Camarena with LAFCO. The item being discussed this evening is LAFCO application number 2021-01, Northwest Newman Phase 1 reorganization to the City of Newman. The proposed project is a request to annex 53 acres into the City of Newman and simultaneously detach the territory from the West Stanislaus Fire Protection District and Central California Irrigation District. The site is located west of Highway 33 and south of Stir Road, northwest of the city and within the city's sphere of influence. The site is currently comprised of 14 parcels made up with ranchette parcels and row crops, and is surrounded by agricultural uses, some legal non-conforming commercial uses, and the City of Newman. The proposed annexation is being requested to accommodate a portion of Phase 1 of the Northwest Newman Master Plan, which includes a variety of commercial, light industrial, and residential uses. The proposed territory contains a mix of business park, mixed residential, community commercial, and professional office uses. So just to give the Commission a little bit of background on this area, in 2018, the City of Newman applied for a 121-acre annexation that included the entirety of Phase 1 of the master plan. There were several residents and landowners who opposed the project due to a number of concerns. The Commission approved that project, and staff held a protest hearing which exceeded the 25% threshold for protests, and this ended up triggering an election. The election designated the item as Measure R and failed, with a majority of voters opposing the annexation, and thus the proposal was terminated. So the City of Newman's new application represents a smaller portion of Phase 1 and is intended to reflect those property owners who are in favor of being included. According to the proposed plan for services, essential governmental services including law enforcement, fire protection, water, sewer, and roads will be provided by the City of Newman. And as mentioned previously, the annexation will also result in detachment of the West Stanislaus Fire Protection District and the Central California Irrigation District. And the city has indicated that it is able to provide the necessary services to the territory. Government code requires several factors to be considered by LAFCO when evaluating a reorganization. Some of those factors evaluated include population, growth, local plans and policies, and impacts on services. A discussion of these factors can be found on pages 3 through 8 of the staff report. After reviewing the proposal, staff has identified a few items for discussion and consideration. LAFCO Policy 22 requires applicants prepare a plan for ag preservation when requesting an annexation. The Commission may consider approval if there is sufficient evidence demonstrating the following list. Insufficient land is available within the city, development is imminent, loss of ag land has been minimized through preservation strategy, and the proposal will result in planned, orderly, and efficient use of land and services. According to Newman's Master Plan EIR, most land within the city is developed with urban uses and no other feasible areas are available. The proposed reorganization is the first phase of the master plan, and phasing will promote planned, orderly, and efficient development of the area. Last, the city has established a voter-approved urban growth boundary restricting urban services until December 31st of 2040. The urban growth boundary is listed as a preservation policy that is encouraged by the Commission based on Policy 22. So this next area just talks a little bit about some of the correspondence staff has received. Staff received a letter from Central California Irrigation District stating that CCID is opposed to the creation of additional CCID islands. When they say islands, they're referring to territories that are overlapping the city's boundaries. No overlap will occur due to the proposed project as it is requesting detachment from CCID. LAFCO has informed CCID and the city that detachment of overlapped areas in other parts of the city will require a separate application. No additional comments have been received from public agencies. City of Newman provided several letters of support for the proposed annexation along with its application. Staff did receive an email from one property owner within the territory opposed to the annexation. The email states that the owner wishes to build a home and have farm animals that would not be permitted within the city. Given the property size, it is currently limited to what is allowed under the county zoning ordinance, and any future home on the property will likely require public sewer and water. Staff also received a letter representing several residents outside of the proposed territory, which can be found in your correspondence. The letter states that the proposal will have a negative impact on the residents' homes, lives, and neighborhood, and that residents were not properly notified. And one more piece of correspondence was the correspondence that Sarah shared with you before the meeting. We just got it before the meeting started, so. And no additional correspondence was received other than those. Okay, so if approved, the proposed annexation will create an unincorporated island. The city's 2018 application included the island area, however, the annexation was terminated by registered voters. Government Code Section 56744 states that territory shall not be annexed if the annexation will result in unincorporated territory completely surrounded by the city. However, Government Code Section 56375M provides an exception if the Commission can find that, 1, the restriction will be detrimental to the orderly development of the community, and 2, the area enclosed by the annexation is so located that it cannot be reasonably annexed to another city or incorporated as a new city. The city is requesting that the Commission make the findings for the exception. In its resolution of application, the city found that although the area creates an island, the proposal advances the orderly development of the community. The city's goal is to eventually annex the entire master plan area. Also, it is expected that the territory will eventually require public services and spur a future annexation application for the island. Consistent with the second required finding, the island cannot be reasonably annexed into another city nor create its own city. In considering the exception, the Commission will need to determine if the proposal demonstrates sufficient evidence to make the exception. Should the commission approve the proposal, the annexation will be subject to protest proceedings. Further details on protest proceedings can be found in the staff report and also in Government Code Section 5075. And pursuant to CEQA, the City of Newman prepared an EIR for the Northwest Newman Master Plan, which addressed the proposed reorganization. The LAFCO Commission, as a responsible agency, must consider the environmental documentation prepared by the city, and the Commission must make findings related to the EIR and statement of overriding considerations. The following provides options that the Commission may take related to the proposal. First option is to approve the proposal with or without modification. The second option would be to deny the proposal with or without prejudice, and the third would be to continue the proposal to a future meeting for additional information. Staff's recommendation can be found on page 10 of the staff report. Should the Commission make the findings for approval, staff recommends adopting resolution number 2021-04, which makes the appropriate CEQA findings, approves the reorganization, directs the executive officer to initiate protest proceedings, and finds the proposal to be consistent with state law and commission adopted policies and procedures. This concludes my presentation, and staff is available for questions.
Questions for him? Go ahead.
The island, is there any way to get around having that island completely surrounded? Is there a way to have some portion of the Jemison Road project to remain in the county, the way you will not have a complete island? Although we have exceptions to the island, it's usually a LAFCO mantra to prevent islands, and at any time that you're annexing a portion of an island, LAFCO always desires having the entire island annexed. So it's, to me, it's a dichotomy. I like the project. I like the way it's going. I'm just want to have an explanation where I can accept the island or find a way to mitigate having the island in there until the other three properties are willing to come forward and be incorporated. Explanation is welcomed here.
I think we might let the City of Newman speak to that. We did reference in the staff report that we had asked about why those properties were included, the three specifically along Jensen Road. And the city manager had stated that the city desired to have control over that roadway as an entrance, as an access point to the potential business park behind it, and full control of that intersection there at Highway 33. But I'll let the city speak to that a little more.
Okay, while they're answering that, I'd like to know if that is an immediate build-out, or is that a projected build-out in some distant future?
So originally, when the city had come in, they provided the whole master plan to us, which had a more long-term phasing, and we had actually recommended to them to do the most immediate phase, which would be phase 1. So that is the phase that they project to be imminent development, that is not beyond the 5, 10, 20-year scope that you would see for the rest of the master plan.
Other questions for staff?
I have a question. It's along the same line with the island. I'd like to hear more why the staff is in favor of this while still creating the island. Because like Mr. O'Brien said, that the mantra is don't do islands, and so yeah. I'd like to hear.
I think that goes back to the difficulty of having a provision in state law and local policy that discourages islands and very strongly prohibits them, but then also allows for an exception. And that exception is not something that we have, I think I found it in a proposal from 20 years ago, but it's not something that's commonly used. And when I read that exception, it sounds to me like an instance where a city had tried to annex like this, and failed, and then is coming back and trying to find an alternative that will work. And so it's difficult for staff. We don't have anything to measure that exception against because we don't have a history of the commission voting on that necessarily. The city is attempting to make the case that this would qualify for the exception, and we need the commission's feedback as to whether or not that's a sufficient reason for the exception.
I grew up in a county pocket, so I understand, but the difference I think is that the city built around an existing residential area and didn't annex it. I think that's where LAFCO basically got formed, was because cities were saying we don't want to put in curb, gutter, sidewalk, and all of that, so we're just going to go around and carve them out. And that's I think that's the genesis of the island part of it, and maybe why that exception's in there.
And there's only the slight difference with this one is there's slightly larger parcels. There's 3 homes out there. It may have a potential for a future annexation versus an area that's already fully developed. There's no trigger point to bring that annexation back, which is why we have so many unincorporated islands that don't come back to us.
So that exception is what would generate this island?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so staff basically is making that exception. You're talking 3 landowners. It's not like it's a tract of homes. And yeah, there's an exception for every rule, as they say. And I can see where this would make sense. And going forward, the plan is eventually to bring them in. And so, yeah. Okay.
Any other questions for staff before we open it up? All right, let's go ahead and have the applicant come forward. How's that? Newman ready?
Madam Chairman, members of the Commission, Michael Holland, City Manager. I'm going to give you just a brief overview, and then we'll hit the hard issue, which is the island annexation. I think that's mostly what's on your mind right now. But with respect to land inventory and policy 22, we are essentially out of land in the city of Newman. We have very limited business park land available. We have 120 paper lots. Of that, 100 were approved in 2007, and then FEMA changed the flood zone, and so they have to be raised up a foot, and the project in this market is sitting there without a buyer. So we don't have any residential lots that we can build upon right now. We literally have 0 finished lots in town. We have no builders building houses in town right now. Maybe 1 or 2 small infill, but other than that, and there are no large parcels out there. So this would be phase 1 into the Northwest Newman master plan, so eventually we can get to the residential portion. The reason we're here with a master plan is when we did our general plan, the community told us they didn't want us to piecemeal projects. They don't want a small subdivision here, a small subdivision here. They wanted us to plan neighborhoods, to plan communities. They said, go out and do a master plan. And then that committee and the community broke up our sphere of influence into master plan areas. So this represents a master plan area in our general plan. And the general plan requirement is we do a master plan for it. And that's what we have for you. After that master plan, the EIR was certified, we worked with LAFCO staff. We didn't think it was appropriate to annex 300 acres at one time, knowing that this is a 20-year build-out on this project site. We wanted to respect ag. You know, ag is a big thing in our county. So we left out a lot of the ag land. We focused in on the parcels that you're seeing here, the expanded one. I think maybe Javier can bring up the old one, but and that's the business park area. So we thought, you know, the infrastructure is across the street where you see that sign that says Sherman Parkway. That's where our infrastructure is. It's just right across the street, water and sewer right there. So we said, okay, let's open up the business park. There's a lot of economic growth occurring on the west side in Patterson. The county is getting ready to do a big investment into Crow's Landing. We wanted to plan so that we could capture some of that job generation in our community, so we don't have as many of our residents having to commute out of town. Let's try to create some jobs in our community. For those of you who have gone through the process, that's not a, you turn it around in 3 months and you got land available. It's a long process, to do the planning, to do the engineering, to construct it, to get the infrastructure there. It's a long process. We'd like to move forward and get some of the infrastructure there. So we worked with LAFCO on this first proposal, and this kind of made a lot of sense. We didn't really want to cut properties out and count votes and all that stuff. So we kind of came forward with what LAFCO staff and city staff considered a good planning proposal. We had some pushback from the property owners. It ultimately went to an election, and the registered voters voted it down, and that was their right. And so we said, okay, that's the result. We'll move forward. So we went back in, we reevaluated where we were at, and said, okay, what else can possibly work to start getting the infrastructure there and start getting some jobs, some potential jobs into our community. We knew a lot of the property owners that didn't want to come in, and so we looked at some boundaries there. We sent out letters asking property owners, do you want to come in or do you not want to come in? And so the proposal that you have now, Javier, if you can go back to the next one, we received over 90% support from property owners on these properties here. The other 10 or 15% didn't respond at all. But here we are, so now we have strong property owner support for this particular proposal, and it respects the property rights of those who decided that they did not want to be a part of it at this particular point in time. So again, we engaged staff, we talked about this, we looked at the pros and cons on this one, and we decided to move forward with this, and we presented this to the council, and they made the referral. A couple of issues I think you want to talk about. We have the CCID issue, and I think that's kind of been, I don't want to say squashed, but I've worked with Jared Martin, the CEO over there, and we've kind of come to a gentleman's agreement that last night we submitted the council passed a resolution that would detach all the CCID parcels that are currently in the city. They passed that referral to LAFCO, so we're going to come back to you at a later date with a detachment application that would clean up a lot of the islands the CCID has in our city. So we're trying to be good stewards and partners with our agencies. So with respect to now, what we're really looking at here is the three parcel island, as you guys are calling it. You could say it's an island. I mean, Caddy Corner right there, just above Sherman Parkway, that's all county land. I mean, it's really Caddy Corner from the Clark property, which is right on the corner of Jensen Road and Highway 33. So it does kind of touch there. So, I've had people talk to me a little bit about, like, why can we cross out, can we just modify the application and take out the 2 parcels on Highway 33? And then you would have an attachment. And it wouldn't be an island. It'd be a peninsula. So, really, are we talking semantics here? What, other than accomplishing your goal of this island, this term on there, you're creating a peninsula. The reason we like those 2 properties, a couple different reasons. One, both of those properties have submitted and contacted us and say they want to be part of the annexation. So that's number 1. Number 2, Jensen Road, if you've ever been down Jensen Road, as you get to the westernmost portion of it, it's what's called a buggy lane. There's literally 1 lane of pavement. You can't move 2 cars through there. So we're trying to open Jensen Road up from Highway 33 to Fig Lane there. That would allow 2 cars to pass at the same time. There's some of that traffic goes out to over on Hardin Road is our high school, so we get a lot of traffic that goes in and out of there. So we'd like to improve that road there and get the infrastructure in there. So would we take out those 2 parcels if you came to us and said we're not going to improve it with those 2 parcels in it? We would probably say yes. But what I would implore you to do is, what you need to think about is those property owners, they have private property owner rights. They've submitted letters. They've shown support for our annexation. And you want to cancel their property owner rights because somebody who didn't want to be in here is not in here. And those 3 property owners, that would create those large parcels that create that island. We're respecting their private property rights by not including them in this annexation. So now what you want to do is, the flip side would be is, devil's advocate could be, well, at the commission, why don't you just force them to come in? That would be the flip side. We're not asking you to do that, but that would be the flip side of it. Forcing someone to come in that they're saying they're not wanting to come in. So I want you to think about that as we move forward on this. Ultimately, in the end, we think the city has done good planning through this. This has been a master plan process. We've had public hearings from day one. We've opened it up. We've invited property owners out there. We've had public meetings. We've had public meetings at Planning Commission. We've had public meetings at City Council meetings. We've done all that. We polled on this phrase right now. We've polled those property owners, 90% support for those property owners in that they want to come into the city. This proposal respects ag. We didn't take in any of the ag land that we weren't ready to start developing, so it respects ag and those rights. We're respecting the property owners' rights that originally said that they didn't want to be in here. So that's why the modified versus the second one. So we're respecting the private property owner rights of those particular people as well. We've displayed the ability to provide services. Even if that island goes in, this just a worst case scenario or however you want to look at it, those three properties, we provide services to those properties. If an emergency happened out there and the sheriff was called, the sheriff would call our police department and ask us to go check on them. And we would do that. And we do that in Figley. And that's just the mutual aid relationship that we have with the county right now. So to say that you're creating an island and the county can't provide services to it, the city of Newman is already doing a lot of those services anyways, whether it's West Stand Fire or whether it's Newman Police Department. District beat number 5 out there probably doesn't have a sheriff. It'd take a while to get there, but our officers can respond in a timely manner, and we do that partnership. Overall, I think when you look at this, in order to approve this annexation, you do have to make those 2 findings, and by having these 3 parcels remain out at this particular time, it does not affect the orderly development of the city. We have the ability to go ahead and put the infrastructure into Jensen Lane. That would allow cars to hit from off of Highway 33 to access into those business park over there. We have some large property owners that are willing to move forward with business park development. And so we think that's important to go in there. And also, the second finding is those 3 properties aren't going to be annexed into another city. They're not going to incorporate on themselves. I know those 3 property owners are pretty adamant that they don't want to come into the city, and that's their right, and we're not forcing them at this time. But they've been in the city's very first general plan. They've always been identified as a future part of the city. So that's not something that was created last week. That's not something that was created with our last general plan. We're going back to the 60s. This was a part of it. So. With that, I think it's a good proposal. We've worked with staff, and with that, I'll stop and I can answer any questions that you may have right now.
Questions for Mr. Holland?
I have a question. Did you mention that utilities are? Where are the utilities?
So right now we're building a water well. Keep going to the left, right. Good. Now go down. We're building a water well right in, just a little bit more to the right. Right around there, we're building a new water well with a 1 million gallon storage tank. The water then comes down Jensen Lane and ties into the city on both Fig Lane and Hardin Road that you'll see there. We've already had 12 property owners tell us that they would like to connect into the water when it's available to them. And then on the opposite side, where Jensen Road intersects with Highway 33, right at the railroad tracks there, we have sewer. And the sewer is sized to handle the Northwest Newman Master Plan area.
So the sewer would be going down Jensen Road, basically.
The sewer would be going down eastward down Sherman Parkway. So see, that's where the line currently terminates, and it flows towards the river. So we would bore under the railroad tracks, under the highway, And then that would provide sewer service to the business park and the residential out there.
But down Jensen Road, right?
Yeah, it would come down Jensen Road, yeah. There's a network of, there's a network of,
Right.
of stuff that's outlined in our master plan.
Other questions for Mr. Holland?
I just want to mention that I believe that your master plan build-out is well thought out and moving forward. I like the explanation of your job and housing ratio as you're trying to build the housing going forward. And your respect for the landowners' rights is extremely important. And taking upon what the staff has said, there's a lot to consider, and thank you for your explanations.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I have a card for Sherry Marzick.
Good evening, Chairman and Commission. My name is Sherry Marsigli. I have the property that's the middle one that's going to be in the island. To add to the background that you just heard, this is an extremely unusual annexation. We were not approached by a developer and offered, given an offer we couldn't refuse, and somebody has an idea out there. This is being done by the city. And resoundingly, everybody who lived out there, the first time we didn't win the first vote because for some reason on the tax rolls there's 55 registered voters. I have walked every inch of that. There's 37 registered voters out there. We beat the first one by 60%. The second one wasn't just a loss, it was a 21-3 loss that people are against this annexation. So what they've done is they've carved it out. I know for a fact that there are at least 4 people in there that they may have not responded but have been opposed, actually 6, since day one, that are now currently in the new boundary. The fact that it's not just a mantra, I thought it was flat out your rules that you don't create islands. Those people that are on Jensen and 33 may think that they've got some big development potential there, but they're, as far as I know, have not had any offers to date. Our property should not be used as a bargaining chip to right past wrongs and inconsistencies. The fact that the city has all of these little non-disconnected spots for CCID throughout the city doesn't mean that they should create put my property in an island just to fix things that weren't done right in the past. Our property is in a floodplain, and if the proposed business park is built, which my understanding is this is all business park and professional offices, and good luck getting anybody to build professional offices. Everybody has figured out they can work from home. We're going to be, and if they build that up according to California regulations and create what, I don't know if any of you ever go to Newman, but we have Taco Hill now, where they've literally, Taco Bell's about this high off the ground because they changed their rules. Taco Hill. So that was what would happen with anything they build out there, is going to create a berm that's going to force, when it floods, and we've been there for 5 generations, so I know what happens. It comes straight down Highway 33, and it'll go around anything they've raised, and it will completely flood my business, my property. So I'm wondering who's going to guarantee that that doesn't happen, or buy me some extra flood insurance. It is not necessary. The island is not necessary to improve Jensen Road. And like he said, police and fire, in the past they had said police and fire would not be offered to us, and I know that they already have the agreement. I find it hard to believe that the promises of how many jobs and how much income it's going to generate for the city, I think those are just like numbers picked out of a hat. I don't think it's been verified in any way, shape, or form that that's actually what's going to happen. And the people that are willing to connect were offered free connection if they did not vote against the annexation. Just as many people who were against it were unable to vote. People who own the property but live out of the area were unable to vote as people who were for it or against it. I mean, yes, they're property owners. The last vote was simply registered voters. I personally do not live there. My brother does right now, but we've owned the land for a long time. I don't really understand how it's orderly growth. Basically, everything that's been carved out, which is the west side of Fig Lane, and everything, all that area down 33 that's been carved out is where all of your no votes were. And I'm very concerned about comments that have been made that we would be forced to annex. I didn't even think that was possible, and I'd like for somebody to tell me how the city could force us to annex if we did not want to, without any kind of offer on the table whatsoever from anyone. Willing to answer questions. I've been working on this since October of 2017 when I became aware the city was doing this, and those are my concerns.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next card is Ronald Clark.
Can I take the mask off?
Yes.
I have
You're
been
6 days.
vaccinated.
Yes, you can.
I'd like to raise a few concerns immediately with respect to my own property, which is the one on the corner. Yes, that one. Okay. We currently have roughly 600 walnut trees on that property, which we are raising for sale. And one of the objections that I've had initially was the fact that if you annex that property, we lose our water rights. Okay, they reduce them to second type, lower classification, which, as I understand it, in this year, because of the drought, might eliminate all of my ability to obtain water. Okay, which would create a financial hardship for us. And the other concern that I have with the way things are written up right now, I haven't been contacted by the city, so I don't know exactly what the property line is on the north side that they are wanting to annex. I'm assuming, and I hope this is true, that any improvement of the road, since they have not contacted me, would be beyond my property. Okay. So that I would not be involved in infrastructure being charged to me. In the last proposal, we were going to be charged to put in a very heavy water pipes, sewer, etc., to handle commercial use of the property, which was financially beyond my capability. Okay, so those are the two main things that I was concerned in the past. At this point, I assume I'm not going to be involved. I haven't been contacted by the city. I've not spoken to Mr. Holland on that. And I assume that this new annexation would come beyond my property and any improvement of the road. I don't know if this is a legal road or not. I don't know the laws on this sort of thing. I was told by the real estate agent that I purchased the property from 20 years ago that road was a buggy trail. I don't know what that means legally, except that it's only just a narrow one-lane road. And I'm not interested in paying to widen that road at this point. So I don't know what the city's plans are along that line. Okay. I have one other concern. I'm not overly concerned about whether I'm in the city or not, other than the implications that have been imposed on me in the past, and I believe I'm not involved in this directly because I'm part of the island. Okay. I was concerned also about the property behind me, which is designated as a business park. I have no serious objections to the business park. I'm not convinced it's a wise thing to do at this time, but I have no serious objection to it. But I do, I guess I can say I don't really object to being called an island or part of an island. I'm 82 years old. I'm not going to be there forever, but I'm hoping at least a decade or so more. And I see no immediate need for development in that area. The city is, I see no immediate need for that. I think in 2006 and 2007, back in those days, there were a lot of speculators running around and offering huge amounts of money. Not really. What they were offering was tie me up for 6 months or a year and they'll go find someone to buy the place. Well, I really wasn't interested in selling. I'm not interested in selling right now, although I've got to admit I would go for a huge increase. But I don't see that on the horizon. We haven't had one speculator come by since about 2007. And I think that one of the criteria that was on the board a little while ago is development imminent. I don't think it is in that area. Okay? I do recognize the city's need to expand on the residential. I understand that. I just don't think the city is ready for development of our property. And therefore, well, various reasons I've given you, I really am opposed to the current plan. My wife has a more expanded version of this, and she'll probably be next.
She is next, yes. Thank you, Mr. Clark. How about Mrs. Clark then?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Well, my husband and Sherry mentioned some of the things we were concerned about, and I don't want to repeat everything. Other people have things to do besides just sit there and listen to everything said twice. But there are some concerns, and basically I think really our biggest one is many people in the area that are outside the area are impacted by this new proposal, and mostly in an agricultural way. Many of the people along Highway 33, as well as us, grow things, grow hay, as we grow walnuts, and there's a concern about the Tier 1 water rights. A bad year this year. If we were Tier 2 this year, no water. So we were assured that this wouldn't happen, but it did happen. So this area I think I'll take my mask off too.
Okay.
You know, there's a big impact on agriculture in that area. Contrary to what Mr. Holland says, it sounds like everybody in the area really wants this. We had a vote 21-3. Basically, Sherry and I went around, and many people were opposed to it, but they were not registered voters. And so there were some that weren't registered voters that were for it. But I think a vote of 21-3, it's hard to say that people really want that in the area. Many people feel that because of this large number of people against it, the city's just going ahead with it anyway. They don't really give a darn about whether we like it or not. It's a great opportunity. You might say in olden days it looks kind of like gerrymandering. We have this thing sticking in and out around the people that want it, around people that do want it. And I'm not sure that's a good plan. I think it has to be looked at more carefully. Whether we need a business park, I don't know. As Sherry said, many people are working from home. Are we pushing this really fast because we need it, or are we appeasing developers? That's always a problem. Developers are always wanting to do more developing. Certainly not where we live, but along Stir Road. The next step is to put residences there, so the developers are pushing this very strongly. We live in the island, and it feels kind of threatening to live in that island. On two sides, we're going to have an industrial park or a business park, and it's going to change our lifestyle to have buildings there and all these people there, and I guess 2,000 jobs there right in our backyard. So we're not real enthused about that. I guess I'm going to say I really am opposed to it, as well as some other people, because of the impact it has on the surrounding area. And I would like to have the city look into it a little more carefully and see whether there's a really need for some of this. And I'd also like to have the area that they're going to annex done in just a little bit better way, so it doesn't look like a gerrymandering effort there. Anyway, I thank you for your attention very much. Bye.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. All right. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak regarding this? Please come up and just let us know who you are.
Hello, my name's Dennis Hatfield. I live at 548 Real Court in Newman. So, you know, that was a very interesting comment that you made about gerrymandering. And it just brings to mind, are those people really aware that they're going to lose their CCID rights? I know many of them are at best English second language, and I'm not quite sure they understand what's happening here. For myself, I'm the one who wrote the letter about not being properly noticed. No idea. The only reason we noticed it is because we bought our house from my business partner, and the mail came to the mailbox, and I went, LAFCO, oh yeah. So I called my partner up and I said, hey, can I open this mail for you? And he goes, yeah, go ahead. That's how I found out about it. I included it in my letter, but photocopy of the envelope, not addressed to us. So that's section number one. Section number two is North Manor is the nicest neighborhood with the lowest density in Newman. And we're going to build a business park right behind our homes, okay? And you know as well as I do, right now with being in a floodplain, we're going to look out at a tilt slab building 40 feet tall, okay? That's what we're going to get to look at. I mean, I don't think the plan has been well thought out. Why would you take the nicest neighborhood in Newman and put a business park right behind it? Why wouldn't you make it very low density housing? Continue very low density housing. It just, I don't think it's well thought out. I really don't. And I know my neighbors don't. There were several of us that I was able to round up to sign the letter, but many of us are against it. We don't feel the plan's thought out well enough. And as far as the other people are concerned around us, leaving them in an island, I mean, it doesn't work. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And, okay, next person, please.
Thank you, Chair Bublak, members of the commission, Dave Romano. The first public hearing I've been to in person in over a year. It's amazing. It is much better than Zoom, let me tell you, to be able to see your faces and communicate. But nerve-wracking because you fall out of practice. I know you guys have been going. It's a pleasure to be here. I think there's a couple of things that are important to discuss. First, I'm here on behalf of Sandpoint Ranch. Sandpoint Ranch owns 19 acres in the business park area. Could we have the red map that shows the proposed annexation area? Because that'll kind of help me identify. And then Patrick Cerruti, who's a neighbor of ours, had submitted a letter in support of the annexation as well. Sandpoint Ranch properties are the piece directly north of the RD Road, Jensen Road. So if you look at Jensen Road, where the RD is, that's about a 3-acre piece of property. And then north of Jensen, that's about a 16-acre piece of property. And then as you continue up to Stir Road, there's a 9-acre piece and a 5-acre piece owned by Mr. Cerruti. Then the Rocha family's on the corner. I know they have submitted a letter in support as well. I think what's interesting, and really Mrs. Clark asked the right question. She said, are we pushing this really fast? And let me explain to you what really fast is in the land use world. I was in these chambers in 2001 when Newman brought a 158-acre annexation. And at that time, LAFCO told Newman, don't come back here again until you've had a master plan and you know what you're doing. At that point, Newman had done a number of annexations in over 40 acres and 60 acres, and there didn't seem to be any order or structure to that. And they got a little bit chastised by the commission. So that was in 2001. Newman goes back, and they hire a consultant to do a general plan update. And they start that maybe before 2005. And I participated in every one of those meetings on behalf of my clients. We met at the junior high. And they ultimately adopted their new general plan in 2007. And then they came to LAFCO in 2009 and they asked that their sphere of influence be modified, but not that it cover the whole general plan, but that it just cover 2 future growth areas that they would really like to focus on. And so LAFCO gave them their sphere of influence modification. Then Newman adopted an urban growth boundary in 2014 that actually set their boundaries and what they were going to do. They worked diligently on a master plan, really from about 2010 through 2017. Community outreach. This plan was detailed designed, where the infrastructure was going to be coming from, where the residential was going to be, where the business park was going to be, and they went through that process. They prepared the master plan, adopted it in 2017, and they came to LAFCO in 2019 and they asked for a really logical and orderly boundary. But at that time, and Supervisor DeMartini was right, I watched the tape today, he said, you know, it's kind of unique for us to get annexations where we have opposition. But LAFCO asked Newman to try. Go ahead and try on that larger boundary, and if you're unable to be successful, then come back. And so 2 years after that, Newman's back with an annexation that has almost 100%, not quite 100%, support and is orderly. So Newman kind of did everything. So fast in this circumstance is 20 years. In the last 20 years, Newman has annexed 2.78 acres of land. They've been taking every step to get here, to plan. They've updated their fees. They've done master plans. They're ready to go. And on behalf of my clients in the business park, you know, business park can be a little bit of office, business park can be back office, people construct in business parks, you know, there's opportunities, and Newman wants to be in the game, and we want to assist them being in the game, and in the future we see them moving into the residential. We understand Mr. Clark's desire not to be in it this time. At the last LAFCO meeting, he said, you know, my property is commercial, And I'd like to develop it someday, but there aren't really any houses yet, and so maybe it's not quite the right time, and I can wait a little bit. And Mrs. Marsigli has been very vocal and been at all the hearings that she really didn't want to come into the city at this time, and we've tried to honor those requests. So, you know, the island carve-out is really for unique circumstances, and it's really not an onerous burden. You know, this area is not going to be annexed to another city. It's not going to be incorporated. But it really is the question before this board of, does it frustrate the logical and orderly development of the city? And in my humble opinion, Newman has thought about this, has worried their way through it over a substantial period of time. This is their only focused growth area. And it might be in pieces, and it might be slow, but it's going to work its way through it. This is where the community wanted to grow. This is where the council wanted to grow all the way back in between 2007 2010. This was the direction. So I'm really proud of the city and everything they've done to get this to this point. I think it makes sense. We're supportive of it. We look forward to the opportunity to be in the city. Infrastructure will come in. It will bring pressure to these other landowners. Mr. Clark will get pressure. Mrs. Marsigli, I hope somebody comes and makes them a great offer because utilities are close to them. But ultimately, they're the landowners, and they get to decide whether they want to develop. The city has worked closely with CCID. Nobody who wants to keep their irrigation rights will lose their irrigation rights. We absolutely understand on our 19 acres that we are detaching from CCID. And that property has been farmed, but it's making that transition, and so we know that with respect to the other farmable property in this area. So with that, that was kind of a long statement, but I really appreciate all their help. I appreciate the help of your staff in getting this to this point and being diligent and thorough, and we would ask for your support. Thank you.
I have a quick question. You mentioned the water rights are going to be remaining. No one not incorporated will have to do any infrastructure or any road building, correct?
No, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I needed to know.
And that was my question too. I want to make sure Mr. Clark knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, so Jensen Road will come into the south property line, but this will give us the opportunity to build from the property line going north, like Mr. Holland said.
So in relation to it, I think Mr. Clark had talked about a city contract, making sure that he knows that the water is his, and he's not going to have a problem with that. Then Mrs. Marsigli also talked about a forced annex. Do you know anything of that?
We have no interest in forcing it. You are the only ones that could force her to annex.
Okay.
I mean, I have no interest. Mr. Holland could let you know about the city's interest, but, you know, as far as forcing, this is the only body that can force anybody to annex, and so ultimately you would have to listen to that at the time.
And the city has been working on this for 17 years?
19.
I mean, the plan has been...
Yeah, their last major annexation was 20 years ago. They've been working on this plan really since mid-2000s in response to LAFCO's direction.
So it's been out there.
Yeah.
You know, just from my personal perspective, there's some real advantages to business parks towards I-5, and you have very quick access to I-5. So, yeah, I think you've done everything to protect property rights and to work around them, even though it's not ideal. You guys have done a great job, and I'm fully supportive of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's another speaker.
Public Works.
Good evening. My name is Frederick Clark. I'm with Stanislaus County Department of Public Works. If this annexation moves forward, we ask that you annex all of Jensen Road, all the way out to 33 with the annexation. When roads are split up, such as what's going to happen up on Stir, you have a response issue. The county's going to be responsible for part of it, the city part of it, and certainly on Jensen Road, where you have just a few hundred feet there in those first parcels, that all should be City of Newman. That way, it all gets developed in an orderly fashion. Unfortunately, up on Stir Road, we have a situation where we have developed parcels that are going to end up in the county, and that'll be our responsibility. And then there'll be a small section there of city, and then the county will pick up again. So in terms of orderly development, yes, please include all of Jensen as part of Newman's responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public speakers? Please, go on.
My name's Jan Devers. I live on Real Court. Our real objection that we think that the city has not, as a homeowner, they've never come to us and talked to us. Can I ask if how many of you up there have been to Newman and seen the new Taco Bell? No?
I've not.
So if you would really like to see what residents are worried about, take a drive out there. It would be worth your time. So Taco Bell is built up because of the flood zone, because we all have to pay flood insurance, because at our time the state didn't mandate that. But now you have to build that up so high. So I'm not an expert. It has to do with soil compactation and all these things. But it's about 18 feet approximately in our area. So if you put a commercial doctor's office, let's say, behind my house, it's going to be about 50 feet probably, and that water is going to run down into my backyard because I have the fortunate position of having both sides of this annexation. Although annexation part doesn't bother me as much, I think that the part on Jensen Road that's in red, the one little square on the side of Fig Lane, I think that needs to be something besides commercial and how it's designated. That's residential behind there, and they're going to say that there's residential here, and you're talking trucks and late night deliveries and higher crime rates, especially if those three parcels are included in the front, then that backs up to the other side of our property. But I'm mostly concerned with, I don't think that there's been enough dedication. And I object, Mr. Berryhill, when you say that they've given all the property rights to people, because you're only talking about the people in the annexation. You're not talking about all of us that have established homes.
But they've tried to work the thing around, creating the island, which I don't think any of us are real wild about the
But
island.
that commercial park's going to put great big buildings behind my house, and I want to know who's going to take care of it when it floods and all the water sheds onto my property. It's the flood zone. And I will share with you that we opposed 8 to 12 houses by Mr. Stevens going in behind us. And we were successful in keeping 2-story homes from, because that would have been like, you know, how many feet on top of a flood zone. And at that time we said, isn't there another alternative besides raising the dirt? And they said, well, there is. There's things you can do underground, but it's very, very expensive. So my thing is that you need to make these other people do whatever this expensive thing is, because it's not fair to us to end up living in something like San Francisco and places like that. That's not why we all live in Newman, is to be behind skyscrapers. So I think it's a poor choice for a business park with all the residential around it. I think maybe there's a better place for a business park that would bring trucks. And Jensen Road has been very nicely described to you guys. It's barely a road. If you want to miss the potholes, you have to go in the dirt. So, you know, that definitely widening that. But even having that be a 2-lane road would not support a commercial. I don't know how many businesses could go there. 20? I mean, how many customers and workers? Jensen Road's not that kind of a road. It's a residential road, even widened. It wouldn't handle trucks and stuff like that. So my reason for being here is I understand the city of Newman has to grow. I've been a realtor in this valley for 20 years, and I definitely would love to see growth. But I don't think it has to happen at the mercy of all of our homes because of this flood zone. And that's what I think you guys need to really look into, is the alternatives for the flood zone. And even the city person talked about it being raised. That's what stopped part of the development in our town, is because the cost of that to a developer raises the cost to a point to how can they sell that home for that much square footage. And so they have to build great big houses to be able to sell the home for enough. So the reason I wanted to come tonight is not only as a resident, but to say, I think Newman's trying, but I don't think they've thought enough about putting a commercial park in a residential area. And I think in a town like ours where there's a lot of other land, I think there could be a better place for a residential park. And I think this flood zone thing needs to be drastically reduced. And then talking with my agricultural friends, I don't honestly believe in the neighborhood, but it's not my land and I'm not going to object to it. They don't understand the whole CC. They don't understand the rights thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other citizen wishing? Yes.
So my name is Francisco Gonzalez, and I live in 547 Real Court. And I'm a little nervous here, but I'm gonna say what I think. I think that the city has not really planned this out. I think that there's already a bias going towards this. The first time it was voted not to continue on, and this time it seems like they're gonna try to do the same thing, trying to push us forward. Why commercial? They have a commercial side by Knott Hill. Over there, there's so much stuff going on back in the parking lots you guys don't even know about. And that's what's going to happen to our neighborhood. I was raised in Newman. I walked Fig Lane and Stewart Road. I walked all those places, Jensen Road, all those places when I was a kid. And I decided that I wanted to buy a house by Real Court because of how safe it is. There's other places. Why are we going to do the same thing that they have in Knott Hill or in Taco Bell? Why are you guys going to trying to build offices? Why? Because it comes down to one thing. It's about the money. Unfortunately, nobody has really gone to any of our neighbors and talked about this. I barely got a letter like 2 weeks ago, and I don't think it's right. I believe this is not right for us. Yes, build single-story houses. Why not? Newman has to grow. It would be nice to have single homes behind us. Why not? But not those industrial or half-industrial or commercial buildings that you guys want to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Holland, yes, please come back up. Well, there's many questions I think you need to answer.
Just a point of clarification, behind these, the people who live on Real Court is professional office. You can't just go out there and build. It would go through a site plan review process and architectural review process and all that before anything could potentially even be built or considered to be built behind them. A large portion of this, some of it is in the flood zone. We're not proud of what Taco Bell had to look like, and we can thank the state of California for that. This particular area over here is a little bit different. It is still in the flood zone, but it's not as low over there, so we're not sure what that's going to have to be, but that'll have to be presented to the City Council and the Planning Commission and through public meetings before anything gets built out there behind them. So originally, I think that was shown as like a multi-family type thing, and we didn't think that was we thought professional office would be a softer use behind this residential instead of doing a multi-family, multi-story kind of project behind them. So,
Can I ask you, just to clarify, I heard 18 feet of
no, Taco Bell's not 18 feet. So it's in the AO zone, which is 2 feet above the flood zone. And there's different ways that you can address flood zones. You know, some of them you just raise the pad up 2 feet above the flood zone layer, or if you go a little bit lower, you keep your outlets a little bit higher. It just really depends on the developer and how they wanted to build it out. But they're probably, it's no joke, that pad's probably 5 or 6 feet high. I mean, you drive by on, what's interesting is you drive by on Highway 33 because it's so close, it seems really high, but it's the same height as the Dollar General across the street that doesn't seem as high because that one's set back off the road. It's just, there's some optics that go in there, but it's no joke. They're not kidding. It's pretty high up there. And they call it Mount Taco Bell. I mean, it's not something the city wanted, but ultimately that's what the developer came forward with. So.
It would have to be any development there, but the business part, obviously the drainage, the design, everything, so that it's not impacting neighbors and so forth will all have to go through the process of the city council, the planning commission, all that, right?
It's illegal to drain your
Jump
water
on
onto
the
somebody
neighbor.
else's property,
Right.
yeah. So all that all the parking lots, everything has to be engineered. It all has to go through, first it goes through planning commission, architecture review. Some of it goes to the city council, some of it doesn't, but ultimately it all has to be approved and signed off by a professional engineer and stamped by a professional engineer showing that all that water is not going onto somebody else's property.
And I just want to reiterate, the farming that is left in the island area does not lose its CCID irrigation.
That's correct. Mr. Clark retains his, all three of those properties will retain
That's
their
all
CCID.
retained.
Correct.
And that's their tier 1. Is that right? They're tier 1?
My understanding is they are tier 1 property owners, but because this proposal does not include them, it does not have an impact on their CCID rights at all.
And Mr. Clark had said that the city hadn't contacted him. Did you get a chance to talk to him at all, or the family?
He's not in the proposal, so.
But isn't there usually
I thought my
share?
original, I could have, I don't remember, to be honest with you, if I included him in the original ask, because he was pretty adamant that he did not want to be part of an annexation proposal, so we may have just taken him out without asking him whether he wanted to be in or not, knowing, based upon, his previous comments that he did not want to be annexed to the city. And I think that's still the case. He's still indicating he's not interested in being annexed to the city, and this proposal does not include him as part of that annexation.
Other questions for Mr. Holland?
I don't. I just understand that what we're here to consider, based on your input and staff recommendations, is quite logical. It's unfortunate the island proposal exists, but there's a logical explanation for why it's there. I'm not a fan of it, but it's one that, as you move forward, it will be addressed later on as the property owners either want to develop or continue living the lifestyle that they're doing. Which the questions about development, that is a decision not for this commission, but it is a decision for the city of Newman, its planning commission, and its residents. What's behind a house is up to your process and our process to make sure that you are orderly as you move forward.
And the county staff was here today, and they really, sometimes we forget about things like this, and he brought up the fact that, having multi-jurisdictions on a stretch of road creates some issues, and so that's why, in our opinion, that's why we included all the way out to Highway 33 on Jensen, because having it all under city control we thought was the best way of moving forward and having that developed in a timely manner.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to my colleagues. Comments? Okay.
So I'm glad Member O'Brien had clarified that we're here to figure out orderly growth, to make sure that the city of Newman doesn't expand to the city of Patterson, try and take everything up in their sphere. And you will have a chance, because this is coming in and they're talking about it being industrial, but it could be houses. They could change it to many different things once it's annexed into the city, and that will be up to, again, to the Planning Commission and the City Council. We don't determine those things. The folks that are not being included in this, there's good and bad that comes with that. I know that you want your autonomy, and you have that. But in the future, if you ever want to grow, the city will essentially, if you need services, you will probably have to hook up, and it'll be a requirement to annex. And so just so you keep that in mind. I know currently the county has 41 islands in Stanislaus County. It's like 7,500 lots. Some of them, most of them have sewer now. We've taken most of our CDBG funds and put sewer lines in, but people aren't actually doing the hookups. I think we have about a 50% take-up rate. Is that about right? And the total cost, we just went through a study, and we're about $450 million to deal with those islands. So it's a serious problem. And I look at this, so the first finding of, could another city annex it? Now, is it orderly? And it seems like Newman has done everything right in my perception, except for the 3 parcels there. I cannot vote today to make a 42nd parcel, even though I have a high degree of confidence, but it's not assured that those will be annexed in the future. I just can't, because there's a reason when you go north by the hospital and the landscape business, there's less incentive to annex things that already have a mature business there. And none of us were around to create those 41 islands. I can promise you that most of them were done in the 40s, 50s, 60s, maybe into the 70s. And in the 20 years that I've looked back, there has been no islands created. And so I can't support this, but I say that I do want Newman to have the opportunity to change that. And so I would be okay with a continuance to talk about that. But creating an island, it's clearly an island, it's clearly stated, and I know we'll try and make the finding that it's logical, but again, creating it in and of itself, when you're talking about, I think it's 4 or 5 acres there, and I do feel sorry for those landowners too, for the same reason that Michael Holland, the city manager, talked about them wanting to get in, but the overriding concern is an island for myself personally.
Other comments?
I guess I'll go here. So I appreciate the presentation, everybody's efforts, and everybody's concerns about this. I share with Vito pretty much everything he said, except for with regard, my concern also islands, and we are very much addressing islands in the county right now and trying to figure out a way to work around those and to get the funding to eliminate those islands. And so I very much am sensitive to that because it's something that's on the forefront in the county right now, trying to figure out how to deal with this. And I appreciate the concerns about the potential right up against these houses too, with regards to what kind of development that'll be. It sounds like it's a professional park, and we always talk about how we hate when things are initiated and the initial statement is this is going to be a business park, and then it gets switched and becomes a residential. But in this instance, we call it the bait and switch back in the days. But I would in this instance encourage, but again, that'll be a decision that happens at Newman City Council and Newman to deal with if this goes forward. And their citizens will all have a chance to have input on that and to find out what that's going to turn into. So this really just comes down to me again, as with Vito, as the county islands. But I guess I just look at it a little bit differently in this case. I mean, I look at these exceptions, and I think that this fits within these exceptions. And I know these 3 parcels do not want to be in the city, and I get that. But I'm comfortable, and it really just becomes semantics. I mean, if we had like a little edge over here, as I think Mr. Holland says, it's semantics. If we had just a little piece here, then okay, that works for us. Which, it really does not make that much difference. And so in my mind, I understand everybody's concerned. I'm comfortable with the fact that everybody's still going to have water in the island, that they're still going to be able to continue to farm. Sounds like Tier 1 water is not going to go away. That's a big concern. And then I think at the city level, with regard to the homeowners here, you're going to have to address this, what's going to end up being there south of Jensen Road. And you'll have plenty of opportunity for input and try to control that. But I'm okay with this island, I guess, happening here, just because of all the factors that are involved with this. We have a lot of, as we're going to go throughout the county and we try to eliminate these county pockets that we have, as Vito said, we have 41 of them out there. We're going to find instances where people just don't want to be in the city. They don't want us to eliminate them. And I know I've come across that in a couple situations where, no, we don't want to have to, hook into your sewer and your water. And And so, so that, you know, what do you do in those situations? You've got plenty of times where people say, I don't want to be in the city. And so, and they remain an island in those situations. So, so I respect these people's opinions to not want to be in the city. But I just think it can't be at the detriment of everybody else here. So, so I'm going to be in support of this. For those reasons, very much appreciate Supervisor Chies's. Yeah, I'm not sure what our titles are up here. Members.
And can I clarify that it's the 3 parcels, right? It's not leaving a sliver.
Right. No, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Yeah, I think at one point somebody said maybe if you just left this little sliver, then you could make this, and it wouldn't be considered. But anyway, but I understand. Yeah. So, but I respect your opinions, and that's just the way that I think I'm going to go on this one.
I agree with both Commissioner Chiesa and Withrow. I was very concerned about creating an island because of the management of it, and what I hate as a mayor of a city, you have a piece of property that has been there for 40 years, not developed, and as you move forward, everything expands around it, and that property just sits there. But the explanation on the lifestyle not being changed, water rights being there, and that if the property owners want to come into the city later on, they may be able to work their own development deals. So the exception to the island was satisfactorily explained to me. Staff did a great job on that, especially the phone call I had earlier, and then the explanation on the history behind it. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the job housing ratio, which has been explained, not the way that I usually explain that, but you were attempting to bring more jobs for your housing, and that is always something that is needed as we grow, and that in the near future, the new RENA numbers are going to come out, and you're going to have to shift gears again. So everyone's going to have to shift gears again. I see these islands differently than I see a lot of the other islands in the county, where most of the other islands are occupied by residential or small ranchettes. I could see around my city, Crawford, Chenault, a lot of others where you have hundreds of homes. They're there. But it's not the same as the 3 parcels, which when they do decide to change, they're changing the entire parcel and not having to get along Chenault 100 different opinions to move one way or the other. I believe the master plan for any city is required, and I applaud Newman and their efforts, and I'm a firm believer in a master plan, not only for each city, but as we move forward as a community, a county, and possibly a region for master plans. I know that there's a lot of issues that are going to have to be addressed by the city of Newman with the residents surrounding the proposed parks, but I'm in favor of moving forward with the proposal based on staff recommendations and what was presented today.
All right, any other comments? I'll just share that as I listened, took notes, I heard the 3 properties were considered each time during this process of not being bothered. Again, the water rights are hugely important. The charging, not being charged for infrastructure as they start to fix the road right there on that touches the Clark's property, I believe. Making certain that the flood zone does not affect negatively those that are already there is hugely important. I do not like islands. We have many in our city, and it's frustrating as heck, but we have criterion to check the box and not go with our opinions here per se, and so I'm leaning towards supporting it. Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the plan Using option 1, approval without modification.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
All right, it passes 4-1. Thank you all for coming. Thank you. I'm sure you have more to go back to the city, and you can check in with them and find out as they decide what they want to do with that annexation. Moving on to LAFCO proposed budget for fiscal year 2021-22. Okay, let's do it.
Tonight, the commission will be considering approval of the proposed LAFCO budget for 2021-2022. So LAFCO is funded by the county and the 9 cities. Historically, the commission has used undesignated fund balance to help offset agency contributions. Projections for the upcoming year had warned of agency contributions rising to a level over $500,000 to match the actual operating budget of LAFCO. Last year, the commission recommended use of fund balance to keep contributions the same as the prior 2 years. For the proposed budget, the following strategies are being used to help continue to offset agency contributions as much as possible for the next year. And that includes what you see there on the slide, using $42,402 of undesignated fund balance to offset those contributions, continuing to reduce the education and training item, and then deferring any increases to our long-term liability reserves. So this is what the proposed budget looks like in comparison to the current year. There's an overall increase of 4% to operating expenses, and that was roughly what was predicted in the prior year's budget. We're again using that undesignated fund balance, as you can see there, to help soften the increase to the agencies, still keeping it below that $500,000 mark. And then these are just some of the highlights for the proposed budget. There was a roughly 2% increase in salary and retirement. That corresponds directly to county benefits that your staff receives. We actually had a slight decrease in health insurance costs. Those are also through the county. A slight decrease in our liability insurance and memberships. You'll recall for the current year, everyone had experienced a huge increase in liability insurance costs. For us, though, in the upcoming year, our provider has actually shown a decrease for us, and part of that is due to credits and just our long-term standing with them. We also had a decrease in our CalAFCO membership fee, so you'll see that reflected, and that was just due to them doing a reevaluation of all the fees for all the different counties. We're adding back in the funding for the audit. You'll remember the prior year we deferred the audit in an attempt, at that point, that was right when COVID was starting, so we were doing everything we could to reduce the budget, and that was one of the things that we deferred. So it's being included back in this budget and will cover 3 years for the audit. That amount, roughly, our estimate is $12,000 for it. That represents most of our increase in our services and supplies budget for the proposed year. Here's what our reserve funds look like, and this is very similar to last year with the exception that our accrued leave fund went up a little bit. That's our cash out liability. So that's just a reflection of accrued sick and vacation leave. I didn't take much vacation during COVID, I'm sorry. But that's why it's gone up. And so our total reserves are the $276,350, and that long-term liability, we're keeping it exactly the same. And I think we talked a little bit last year about that long-term liability being the pension liability that now everybody is identifying, and the uncertainties regarding that number. This is what the agency allocations are looking like for the next year. There's some slight changes every year in this, and this is based on state law. The county always pays half of our budget, and then the 9 cities divvy up the remainder based on their annual revenues report from the state. So there were some slight changes from the prior year, and these all relate to how much those cities pay into LAFCO. So even though our budget is going up a little bit, City of Houston, as an example, their allocation is going down. So they're actually paying less than they did for this year. And then all of those estimates for each city are in the report as well. So just to reinforce that this supports LAFCO staff, our work program. We completed the 2020 work program, although it was an awkward year. We're currently making progress on the 2021 work program that the Commission adopted. Application is steady, and I would say it's actually increasing a little bit because now that things are opening back up, people are giving us applications that maybe they were holding on to. We're still processing that large-scale Salida proposal that you had in the prior month. We're actually working on the protest hearing process for that. And we're still getting district and city annexations, as we saw tonight, and out-of-boundary service extensions. And we've, I would say, had an increase in inquiries, especially in the last couple months for applications. So at this point, staff recommends that you conduct the public hearing, adopt Resolution 2021, which would approve the proposed budget, and then you would schedule a public hearing for May 26th to consider the final budget. And I'm available for any questions.
Cool. Questions for staff?
No questions from, just sorry, Richard, I don't know if
No, I have a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine's just a comment too. I just want to commend you, Sarah. This is great. I think this is part of the best that I've seen this put together as far as presentation in detail and information and actual numbers versus budgeted and where we're going to stand and reserve amounts and everything. So when I first started on this, I know that it used to be a pretty, like the heck, this front page was about it. And I very much appreciate you providing that detail and showing us kind of where we are, where our reserves are, and where the actual numbers are coming in for the year. So good job. Thank you very much. You and the staff, thank you all.
Commissioner O'Brien.
I just, as looking through what you proposed for the salaries, and I appreciate your salaries. I just want to make sure that we are in line with some of the other salaries that are outside of the county. You take a look at Stancog and some of theirs, because we just took a look at theirs. And I want to make sure that you're not shortchanged, because you're doing a heck of a lot of work with just a very few staff.
That's something that we could probably come
You
back.
don't have to do it today, but you can do it in the future. Because you're scheduling a public hearing for today, but I want to make sure that, I'm one that always has to do comp and class study, or making sure that, apples and apples are being evaluated, not apples and grapes. Sorry about the grape remark.
Wow, well said, supermarket, yeah.
And we'll take that into consideration. I will say that our positions were originally part of the county's planning department. So when we were split off, I don't think it was truly contemplated that we were our own department in terms of what the positions are.
You
so
are.
that is worthy of further consideration.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's open it to the public, see if anybody wants to speak to it. Okay, closing the public hearing, bringing it back. What is the will of the
Motion to
commission?
approve.
We have a motion
I'll second that.
and a second.
Well, I'm confused. We're scheduling a public hearing for the 26th.
Right, don't we have to accept it first? I'm sorry.
You have to accept it, but not close the public hearing. Am I correct?
Well, if it's on the agenda, you have to open it for opportunity to speak, right?
Oh, right. I thought I heard closing public hearing,
Well-
which would be a formality due on the 26th.
Well, you're closing the public hearing on the proposed budget.
Correct.
And then we're going to schedule another
Correct.
hearing for the final.
Okay.
All right.
Never mind.
Okay, so we're about to vote in favor of
You
this?
should have gotten the other O'Brien.
He's gonna, next he's
Man,
gonna
I
pull
know.
Robert's Rules of Order out of his pocket.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say nay. Passes unanimously, thank you. All right, commissioner comments. Anybody?
Great job, staff.
Did you want to say something?
I do. I want to mention Brad. He's been on here, since LAFCO first had the first L in it? You've been here for a long time?
The first L, wow.
Yeah, and a different, not as public member.
Yeah, and
Stone tablet.
I truly appreciate, this guy has stamina. He comes all the time, and he anticipates one day he'll vote. And I think he had that opportunity 3 times in the last 2 years.
And you would think that the public member that gets a vote would at least let me vote on the last meeting I'm here, but no.
Ouch.
But no, what I appreciate about this is that even, and I think we set the kind of the DNA that it doesn't matter if you're going to vote or not, you still ask questions because it's part of the process. I have experience and nobody else has, even though I'm not going to vote. And I think that's why I come, because if I was just,
I thought it was sitting next to Richard.
No, it was actually because of you.
Okay.
Hey, Brad, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did you ever create an island?
Wow.
Oh, gee.
No, but
Here we go.
I've been kicked off of every island I've ever been on, though.
All right,
Brad, I want to thank you for the standard you've set, and I hopefully can, live up to it now that I'll be in your position. And thank you for all the service you've done to LAFCO. You've been a stalwart. I remember when I first called Brad to say I couldn't make a meeting, he was so excited.
I don't change my pants.
In all honesty, I know I've told you this before, Brad, but when you love your community and you're invested in your community, you can do so much good, even not being an elected official, and you're the toast of the town here in Modesto because of all the work you're doing, not just here at LAFCO. So thank you.
So to round that up for you real quick, can we go ahead with the accolades here?
Go for it.
So this is for you, Brad. You have served several years on Modesto City Council. You are the past president of the Modesto Rotary Club, currently the co-chair of Focus on Prevention, recently awarded Citizen of the Year by Modesto Chamber of Commerce. And on weekends, you'll find Brad out building parklets here in downtown Modesto. And on top of all that, you have served as a city and a public member on LAFCO for 13 years. And so on behalf of all those who have served and those that are serving now and all the staff, we thank you, and we got you a little plaque. All right, so everybody want to adjourn?
Can I get the take, because at my funeral, I'm going to have this.
So the next meeting, May 26th, yes?
That's right. And we have
Executive
another
report, sorry.
annexation on that meeting as well.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And that's, I'm sorry, your report?
That's fine.
Okay.
May 26th.
Okay, all in favor of adjournment? All right. We have adjourned.